We have lots of NHL news and rumors to take a look at tonight, including a potential goalie trade between Pittsburgh and Colorado. Both teams looking for answers between the pipes. Could they solve each other's problems and swap struggling goaltenders for a change of scenery? Plus, the Maple Leafs have a big decision on their hands. Today, we're taking a look at an article from the Toronto Star analyzing whether or not they should re-sign Mitch Marner or should they make a significant change to the roster. Plus, we have lots of other news today, including Jake Oettinger signing a long-term deal with the Dallas Stars. Lots of other activations and roster moves around the league. Waivers news. Some big news out of the KHL as well, with several former NHL players being terminated from their contracts. And we have a big update as well regarding the case that were involving 8 OHL players from 10 years back. We'll discuss all the details of that, what we've learned, and all the rumors around the league coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have lots to talk about today. We have another makeshift TSH Studios video here down in my kitchen tonight as well. Again, lots going on here in my regular house here. So it's just been kind of a chaotic week, to say the least here. So we have lots to talk about, including Luke Schenn hitting a major milestone tonight with the Nashville Predators. He is expected to play in game number 1,000. So obviously Luke Schenn, about 5 years ago, he went through waivers. His career was at a crossroads. He had 2 or 3 different stints in the AHL. It looked like it might be coming to an end, but then he found his way back, and then he's again found his way through multiple other contracts and teams, and has continued on. He's still playing a big role. So Luke Schenn, of course, was a high pick to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Didn't quite live up to the hype, to the high pick, but has carved out a very nice and very successful long career. So congrats to Luke Schenn. There's been times when I thought it was going to be over, and he keeps persevering and pushing on. So good luck to him. As we did a dedicated video earlier today, in case you missed it, or if you want more analysis, check that out later. But Jake Oettinger of the Dallas Stars have agreed to an 8-year contract extension. Pretty much got the Swayman treatment, 8 years at $8.25 million. A lot of signing bonus money in there, and a no-move clause for years 2 through 6. Otherwise, it changes to a modified no trade at the end. The only difference here is Oettinger's no move is 1 year longer than Swayman's. Otherwise, it's the exact same. But here is the caveat. I mean, Oettinger, Swayman, similar ages. Obviously, Ottinger's gotten a lot more games. I think he could have commanded a little bit more money, has a bigger body of work to draw from. But the no state tax advantage, just to give you an idea, Jake Oettinger, because Texas is a no tax state versus Massachusetts for Swayman with the Bruins, over the course of those 8 years, Oettinger is going to take home $3.3 million more in take-home pay. That is crazy. So it's about $400 and some $1,000 per year difference. There's a great account that we discovered a bunch of us discovered on Twitter today, or X I should say, who has the calculations down pat for the different state taxes and stuff. And it works out to be $3.3 million over 8 years. Absolutely crazy. But Oettinger gets a well-deserved extension. Nobody new on waivers today, but Dylan Gambrell and Brendan Lemieux, who were both on waivers yesterday, both cleared, so they can be reassigned. I believe Lemieux already has. I think Gambrell maybe as well. We'll see. Lots of other updates around some injuries. Erik Gudbranson, of course, who left last night's game, another serious injury for the Blue Jackets. Sounds like it's not promising at all, and he's going to be out for an extended period of time. So we know Captain Boone Jenner is going to be out the bulk of the year. Gudbranson's out long term. Like, this team is just, it continues to spiral here. It's unfortunate how much bad luck and all the stuff that's happened to that team. It's absolutely crazy. The Penguins today activated goaltender Alex Nedeljkovic, and we're going to talk a bit later about a potential Penguin goalie trade. And I wonder, obviously, if Nedeljkovic coming back will have a role in all this. The Canucks have recalled defenseman Erik Brannstrom. He's officially, I talked yesterday about how we thought that was coming. Derek Forbort is going to be away from the team. I believe it was personal reasons, if I'm not mistaken. So we don't know exactly the timing or the timeline, but Brannstrom is up in the interim. Chicago Blackhawks tonight. Lucas Reichel's making his season debut. He's been a healthy scratch in the first few games of the season. They also have moved Alec Martinez to injured reserve and recalled Isaac Phillips. So some moves there in Chicago. KHL news, which is not really something we talk about a lot here, but it's affecting a lot of former NHL players, guys that played in NHL very recently as well. But the KHL club called Barris Astana has terminated several of their import players' contracts. That includes former NHL guys Wade Allison, Nathan Beaulieu, Will Butcher, Chase DeLeo, Alex Grant, and Michael McLeod, who of course we know is awaiting trial for the incident that happened in London, Ontario. So yeah, I'm not sure the rationale, the reason, what's going on here, but they terminated several import contracts today. So those guys will no longer be with that team. I don't know if there's any chance for them to catch on with other teams over there, or if they'll be coming back to Canada. Now, as I mentioned, we got big news yesterday around a new case of sexual assault that's been brought forth in Ontario, alleging that 8 former OHL players participated in this situation. So we learned a little bit more yesterday in the video. We heard the initial details from Rick Westhead of TSN. Of course, Rick also works under the CTV banner for W5, more of an investigative type show. I know he put a bunch of stuff out on Twitter, and the rest of it was going to be on the broadcast later that evening, which that's why I said yesterday I'll talk about what we know so far, but we're going to learn more. So essentially what's happened here is the complainant was a 22-year-old female at the time when this happened. So this was 10 years ago in 2014. At the time, she had been seeing, as a casual relationship was described, one of the players, who was one of the older players at the time, a 19-year-old. So they had had a casual type relationship for about 6 months. And one night, she was invited over to his place where he was living with his billet family, and was told, "Why don't you come over and hang out, watch TV with me and a couple friends." Seemed innocent enough. She'd already known this guy for a while, but when she arrived, she knew something was very different pretty much from the get-go, as there was a lot more people there than just a couple of friends. Turned out to be the 8 players in question here. She says that they brought her into a bathroom, and it was the guy she was seeing and 1 or 2 of the friends, I believe is what the story was. In the initial part of it, they brought her into a bathroom, started doing sexual related things, I guess, with her, and then slowly everybody else kind of joined in, so to speak, here. So the problem is I guess, not the problem, but, of course, one of the big issues here is that she didn't go to the police. She, for some reason, blamed herself, is what she says. So her family didn't know. She kept this completely quiet. And when she called police recently to report this, they even gave her the runaround as well, which wasn't good. Saying that because where she's living now, she reported it, but apparently they told her she had to report this to the police where it happened. Instead, what should have happened in their protocol is that they should have taken enough information and then transferred her and made sure she got in the right touch with the right people. That didn't happen. Police apparently have admit fault in that particular issue, I believe. And her own lawyer even told her that they were concerned because some of the players' ages where they were still minors, like there were some 16-year-olds. The range of ages with these 8 players ranged from age 16 to 19. That she was worried that, this blows my mind, that the victim here could face charges herself for having sexual relations with minors. Like, if this is true, they were raping her. Like, I don't understand how she could possibly face any charge. That's absolutely insane. So this story's already taken multiple twists and turns here. From what we've heard, some of these players don't have, of course, any names or how many or anything of that nature, really any details about them. But Rick did say that some of them have gone on to play in the NHL. I'm not sure if they're still in the NHL or anything else. But yeah, it's quite a crazy case here of another real horrific situation. The NHL and the OHL have both put out statements saying that they've heard of the situation, but they don't have any other information. The only thing they know is what was put out in the media on Wednesday through Rick Westhead and his reporting and the story that came out last night. So it'll be another case to follow, see what happens. Again, we have a major case, like I said, ongoing for the World Junior Canadian team that took place in London, Ontario a number of years ago. And obviously at this point, there's some other ones that are being investigated too. It's just such a you hate to see and hear these cases. Like the culture really needs to change. It's just unfortunate that this should not be happening. But at the same time, like I've said before, everybody will have a chance to defend themselves in court, assuming this makes it there, which I suspect it will. And they are technically innocent until proven guilty. And again, in this case, we don't know anything about the players. The victim herself also, as her identity is being kept secret for the time being as well. So just another unfortunate, bad story of something horrible that, reportedly or supposedly happened that we're going to have to follow up on and see what went down. And like I said, it could affect other NHL players because since we don't know the full details here, some of these guys have gone on to play. That's all we know. So, I hope we don't hear about any more of these that come forward, but you just never know. Speaking of goaltenders now that have gotten big contracts, another one today in Jake Oettinger. Could the next one be Adin Hill in Vegas? There was some talk about that in the media today. Obviously, Vegas and Adin Hill. Right now, everything is very quiet on a contract extension. Dave Pagnotta looked into this today. He was kind of wondering if it might be the next guy. We know Igor Shesterkin is a separate, completely different realm here, so it's not like he's going to be in the same kind of range as these other guys. And I don't think Adin Hill will either, and Pagnotta made mention of that, saying he doesn't see him being an $8 million goaltender. He has a Stanley Cup to his name now, but completely different, the way he's as far as how he's risen to the NHL and how he's played, and not exactly considered by many, at least, the same kind of category as Oettinger and Swayman. But he has been really good for Vegas. I would suspect he's probably more in that 6 to 7 range. He's making $4.9 million now. It's believed he's definitely going to be looking for a raise. But for considering how much activity there's been on the market right now, he very well could be one of the next ones to get a big extension. But as Pagnotta has reported, it's been very quiet. There is no talks ongoing right now. It seems like Vegas is content to hold off before they pursue Hill as on an extension or decide what to do with their goaltending kind of moving forward here. Now, as I mentioned, we also have some other goaltending stuff to talk about tonight. Colorado, Pittsburgh, both teams struggling out of the gate here. Obviously, Colorado more so than Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh has not had a great time here with Tristan Jarry. Tristan Jarry has had some really bad games to start, going back to last year, and in the playoffs, he's consistent, very inconsistent, and had a bad run. And then, of course, Alexander Georgiev continues to struggle here for Colorado as well. I did come across an article today saying both teams are looking for answers between the pipes. Could they swap goalies and maybe see if a change in scenery might be what it takes to get them going? And, maybe. The only issue here is Georgiev does not have the term on his contract like Jerry does. Kyle Dubas signed Jerry to a longer-term deal last year, so he has a lot more term, a lot more expensive longer term than Georgiev would. I don't think the Avalanche would have nearly the time trading him that Pittsburgh will have with Jerry. However, both goalies are struggling. There could be a fit there. There's no doubt about it. Although I'm not completely convinced that it will be going down that way. I know we previously had seen Philip Grubauer linked back to his old team with the Avalanche. I think Grubauer will be done in Seattle this year. He'll either be traded or he'll be bought out. Either way, I don't see him being with the Kraken next year after the 5-year deal that they put on the books for Joey Decord. And then, of course, like I said, with Georgiev, his contract's not far away from being done. I would not be shocked if they went the Grubauer approach, but, I think they would have more history and more confidence with him than Jerry. I would think, especially if he gets bought out and they can sign him to a new contract, a little bit shorter term, a little bit less money. But all in all here, both teams looking for goaltending help. Don't be shocked if either team makes a goaltending move. In Pittsburgh's case, they might be content to move forward with Nedeljkovic and Joel Blomqvist. So they may not necessarily need a goalie coming back. They may try to find a way to move Jerry and get a different kind of return completely, right? So either way, both goalies are struggling. Both teams are looking for answers. I guess it makes sense why they'd be linked together, but I don't see it being a perfect fit. But although I can see both guys being moved separately. And of course, big article in Toronto today, Toronto Star, from Nick Kyprios, who's writing now as well, not only doing media stuff for Sportsnet and his podcast, but also writing for the Toronto Star. And his article basically talks about Mitch Marner, and do they re-sign Marner, or do they find a way to make a significant change to this team? Of course, it's early in the season. So far, Marner's play has been fine. The team has been fine. So it's all pretty quiet right now in terms to, what to do with him, right? They've already made big commitments to Matthews and Nylander. Lots of talk that they do have some interest. And it sounds like it's fairly significant interest to bring back Tavares in a shorter term, cheaper contract. Those negotiations have taken place to some degree. We've heard about them trying to re-sign Jake McCabe. There's lots of interest there going on. And then, of course, Marner's the big one now. Like, his article goes on to say that as much as we've watched Marner, Matthews, Nylander kind of grow up together and before our eyes in Toronto, watching the Face-Off series on Amazon, kind of getting that behind-the-scenes view, and, of course, watching them in the playoffs again last year, he feels that they've kind of proven that no matter what the regular season brings, that they can't win together and have not been able to show that they can win together in the playoffs when it matters most. So, at the end of the day, that a change within that core group is needed. Now, to me, you could, like I said before, though, you have to be careful. If they decide to move on from Marner, it's going to be very difficult to get much of a return, if anything, because he does have a no-move clause, so he controls things. If you decide you want to move him, he doesn't have to play ball with you. He can kind of force himself into staying, even if they want to move him, and then he could walk as a free agent, and they won't get anything for him. And to have that kind of asset management would be absolutely terrible. And you know what? He's not going to re-sign and not demand a full no-move clause again, so that even if you decide, you know what, maybe we'll sign him and then we could consider trading him down the road if things don't improve as a playoff success and all that. But then he's going to be in control still, right? So it's really tough. And it's going to be really tough to win the outcome of this for Toronto. So I don't know. I mean, but at the same time, they got to be careful. He's a very talented player who plays a big role in the team, and he'd be very difficult to replace. But with the role he plays, he'd be very difficult, almost impossible to replace. So, and like I said, trading him is going to be proved very difficult. The more likely scenario here is he either signs or he walks as a free agent. I don't know that we get a trade involving Mitch Marner. I just, unless they talk and he agrees that I'll give you a bunch of teams I'll go to and they can actually work something out, it just seems unlikely. I mean, he and his agent know that they've got the team right, and that they don't have to do anything they don't want to. He wants to be a Leaf. They want to try to win as a team, win as a Leaf, and, they have one final crack at this, and it's hard to say. So what happens with Mitch Marner is difficult to say. If Kyprios thinks that they need to make a significant change in order to have that playoff success, the regular season's a completely different animal, and they can probably continue to be strong and have good results in the regular season regardless of what they decide, but it's winning in the playoffs and getting towards that Stanley Cup that matters the most. And at this point, can they do it with this core group of players? Now, obviously, with Tavares' contract coming off the books, even if he re-signs at a much smaller number, you probably will have more flexibility to maybe add to this group next year. Do you consider that as your next move? But with Marner's contract being due here shortly, you have to, he's not likely going to sign anything less than a long-term deal. So you either need a long-term commitment or you move on. I'd be surprised if he signed a really short deal and, said, let's give it another year or two. We'll get this increased cap flexibility from Tavares' contract coming off the books, and then we can add to this group and try to win together. You never know. That would be, from the team's perspective, interesting, and I would consider that. I just don't see the player going for it, but time will tell. Let me know what you think. Does Marner stay, or is Kyprios onto something here that they need to change the group to win in the playoffs? Let me know what you think, and we'll talk about it further in the comments. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you next time.